Jasper National Park. It's big. No, I mean it's huge. Covers an area of over 10,000 square kilometres, and it's on the World Heritage List, one of the largest UNESCO sites to date that protects a very unique and fragile ecosystem. And a great way to see beauty of such scale is from above. The Jasper Tramway is the longest and highest tramway in Canada, taking you on a relaxed, personally guided tour of this magnificent alpine tundra. And the views? Fabulous, uninterrupted vistas. At its peak of 2,285 metres on Whistler's Mountain, you can see up to 80 kilometres away. No power poles, no high-rises, no highways, simply breathtaking. It's incredible to see how accessible all of this is, but it wasn't always like this. Native peoples have been living on this land for over 10,000 years, but the first European trek through Jasper didn't take place until the early 1800s, when expeditions were conducted to survey this rough and unknown territory for the purpose of building a railway. You can actually see it behind me, moving through the valley. This railway was a highway for the booming fur trade industry at the time and connected Jasper to the rest of Canada. In turn, it opened up this glorious countryside to the rest of the world, capturing the hearts and imagination of travellers far and wide. At the end of the tramway, you can hike up a little further to the summit, or if you really want to get your blood pumping, there are another 12,000 kilometres of hiking trails in the park, fit for all levels. Jasper is famous for wildlife spotting, and the great thing is you don't have to be an expert tracker. Just look out for the line of cars parked on the roadside, a giveaway clue to nearby elk, mule deer, white-tailed antelope, and the long-horned mountain sheep. Now, if you are getting out of your car, you must keep at a safe distance, especially if you are lucky enough to come across a grizzly or two. To find out more about Jasper National Park and the tramway, jump onto canada.travel.
The University of Alberta's Devonian Botanical Garden was set up in 1959 on this stunning 70-hectare site. Now, it's the most northern of all of Canada's botanical gardens, and that makes it a great place to test out cold hardiness. In the winter, the average minimum temperature is minus 20 degrees, just mind-numbing. And they have a 120-day growing season, that's it. So, survival is the name of the game here, and it's all about explosive growth. So let me show you a few of the survivors. Perennials go to sleep in winter, and then in spring they mature and flower quickly and then set seed for the survival of the species. The biting cold of winter means that growing roses that we know and love, the hybrid teas, is an impossible dream here. And yet, Canada has its own native varieties that are perfectly adapted to the climate. Their flowers might not be as large, but they certainly put on a great show for many months. The All-American Trial Garden not only showcases the latest annual flowers, but it also ensures their suitability for the local area. This means that commercial seedling growers can plant with the knowledge that these new introductions will perform. The Heritage Vegetable Collection contains varieties that were in cultivation in the early 1900s. Researchers found out the names of the cultivars from garden radio broadcasters of the era and then sought the varieties from Seed Saver networks. Antonella Bell is an education coordinator here at the garden, teaching primary school students about plants, in particular plants that were used by the Indigenous people. Antonella, we're in the Native People's Garden. What are some of the highlight plants for you?
All right. There's a few that I show the children. One of them is the fireweed. This plant is used for many medicinal purposes. One of the most interesting ones, though, is they make a decoction from the roots, which actually serves as a pregnancy test, and the woman drinks this decoction, and if she gets a violent nosebleed, then apparently she's pregnant. The prairie sage is another interesting plant used in many different ways by the Indigenous people, but perhaps the foremost use is for rituals. They dry the leaves and use it as incense, and they would wash the smoke over the individual, and that cleanses them spiritually.
Now, what about this one?
And this is a beautiful large tree. The native peoples use it for many different purposes. One of the foremost is teepee poles, because it has a very straight growth habit. And its roots are very flexible, and they used to peel them, split them, and use them to stitch bark together to make their canoes.
They've got a great herb garden here with all the culinary and medicinal herbs you can imagine. But one thing that I think is quite unique is a garden of poisonous plants. Now, why is it a good idea? Because it helps you to identify the ones that you don't want in your garden. Alpine plants are an important part of the flora of Canada, but by definition, they grow on the tops of mountains, so they're not so easy to see. Well, this garden gives you the opportunity to view them close up without having to go trekking. The Butterfly House is actually a tropical conservatorium, which is artificially heated to create a warm and humid environment, which is the key to the survival of both butterflies and the plants. Visitors can see the chrysalis opening up and the beautiful ballerinas of the sky take to the air for the first time. Next time you're in Edmonton, make a date with the Devonian Garden for a really interesting and enjoyable day in the fresh air.
When we come back, we stir up the waters of the North Saskatchewan River in our search for gold.